All right. So today we're going to be doing our notes for graphic layout, which is going to help us gear up for our last two projects if you're a senior. You've got one more if you're not a senior. So last few projects, I'll say. So we're just going to start with a warm up. Last time we were working on a t-shirt design, and in order to be able to do that, you had to identify your primary, your secondary, and your extra information. So on the front of your notes, I gave you guys just like a little flyer example. And just to warm up, I want you to decide what you think is the primary, what you think is a secondary, and what you think is the extra information based on, what you think they're trying to capture your attention with. So take a quick minute and warm up there. So today we're really going to be focusing on the elements of graphic design, and those are proximity, alignment, repetition, and contrast, also known as PARC is an easy way to remember them. So in your notes today, for each of those, there's basically some just different like practice exercises, like just kind of some ways to make sure that we get the concept instead of just me talking about it. You get a quick chance to apply. So if you're doing this digitally, you probably want to use color, fonts, things like that. If you're doing it hard copy, then you might want like a couple different color markers, something like that. Just make it a little more fun and interesting. All right, so first we're going to talk about proximity. And you might have done this without even thinking about it when you did your t-shirt design. But proximity means grouping alike information so that your layout is easy to read. And this becomes really important the more information you have. Like if I have a flyer with all different kinds of information and it's not organized well, it's going to be really hard to communicate my message. So if you look at this business card example, you've got a front and a back, and look at how they've grouped together all of their social media. Makes sense, right? Looks like it belongs together. You can see like the name of their company, their logo, their company slogan all together. Makes sense. And then you've got like their contact information, their website, their phone number, their email, their address, all of that. So do you notice how like everything that's grouped together, it makes sense? It wouldn't really make sense to have like Smith Company, Twitter, here's our website, here's our slogan, like all over the place. So the idea is that you're just kind of thinking about like what belongs together and then you're placing it so. In your notes, I gave you guys a little rectangle, and when we flip to the next slide, so I've given you a bunch of just like random information, and I didn't really organize it for you in any way. So what I want you to do in the rectangle is group it in a way that you think makes sense using proximity. And again, like if you're doing this by hand, having some different colored markers is kind of fun. If you're doing it digitally, maybe consider using different sizes, different fonts, that kind of thing, just to get a little bit of practice. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is alignment, and this is how the text is arranged. So like how it's laid out on the paper. So our options are left flush, centered, and right flush. And if you look on your notes, you have 3 different rectangles, one for right, left, and center. So let's look at each. So centered alignment means that everything is centered. And this is a very traditional option. Sometimes can be a little bit more formal, very traditional, sometimes kind of boring, honestly, because it's the first thing that people think of until they, try something else. So it's not wrong, but I would encourage you to try other things and see if it still is a thing that makes the most sense. Sometimes if you're using other graphic design tricks as well, like this person is, it still works, it still looks good. But it's kind of like your more basic alignment. So left flush means all the lines start at the same even part on the left. See how all of these align with each other? Alignment. So left flush is a little bit more modern of a look than centered, trying something a little bit new. I use this one a lot, especially for flyers and poster designs. Definitely worth a shot. And then right flush is the opposite of that. So instead of putting all your information on the left, you're putting all of your information on the right. And I would say most people don't do this unless they have a little bit of graphic design background. They just don't think of it. So it's seen as a little bit more contemporary, cutting edge, that kind of thing. Now, sometimes in designs, we have things that are like right flush, and then we might have something up here that's centered. So it's also okay to kind of mix them around, but you don't want to have too many different things. Like you don't want to have something left, something centered, something right, just to have it all over the place. Make sure that whatever you're doing, you have a plan. So in your example here, you can use whatever you want. You can just use like your first, middle, and last name, something like that. But just kind of give a practice. This is a visual for you, so you remember what your options are in terms of alignment. And I just ask that you think about it instead of just doing like whatever your program's auto set to. Like try some different alignments and see what you can do with it. Sometimes the alignment makes a big difference in how successful the overall design is. All right. Our next one's repetition. And if you've had me for art before, you've heard this word. So repetition means repeating similar elements for unity. So basically repeating certain things so that it looks like everything goes together. So this is an infographic and it has a lot of information. If this wasn't designed well, it could be really stressful to read and really, really confusing, but they've done such a great job. So notice how like first of all, they have like a color scheme, right? And every single section is repeated that color scheme, right? So it looks like it makes sense. We're not using like colors over here and then different colors here and then different colors here. We're being consistent and it looks unified because of the colors that are used throughout the design. Using a repeated font can be a sense of unity. So sometimes we use like a more bold, attention-getting like header. And you can see it's like the same font for the secondary information. But then we use something like a bit simpler for the extra info, right? But if we use that attention-grabbing font multiple times, or if we use that simple font multiple times, that can create unity as well. So it's good to use a couple different fonts, but you don't want to have like 20 different fonts. Too stressful, not unified. Also, like notice how like all of the secondary information is the same size. So we don't have like 5 different sizes here, right? So we're being consistent with that. All of the extra information is also the same size. Another thing that I noticed about this design is the use of repeated shapes. So for each section, they have repetition of a certain shape that they've used. Again, this also helps, me flow over the information. It helps the information be read. So all of those repetition tools are just things that create unity in a design, especially when you have something with a lot of things going on like this. If this wasn't well designed, it would be really chaotic. Here's just a web page example. Not quite as much information, but when you have good web page, it just flows well. So again, unity in the colors. We're using purples fading to orange, and they're doing that throughout. Look, how they've used the logo and integrated that same look here with the gradient, and then they're pulling that purple color and using it down here and here and here. Lots of repetition there. The logo reflects this title. Notice like the line that's been taken out of it. And then the secondary font is the same. And then all of the extra info is just kind of like a simpler font that's also all the same. Notice how all of these text boxes, like same size, same color, we're using the arrows. So it all looks like it goes together. It's really easy to use. It's easy to read. It looks nice. So for repetition, I'm just asking for some different elements that you can apply in graphic design. So we just talked about that, like fonts, word sizes, colors, images, all of those things, icons, all of those things could definitely be used. All right. Oh, sorry. And then down here, I give you some space to make a little fictional website. So it doesn't matter what it's for, guys. We're just having fun here. It can be your own website if you want. But we're kind of talking about the idea of like, what does that look like? How can you like create repetition in a fake website? Okay. And then lastly, this is my favorite one, contrast. So how can you use contrast to emphasize what you want to stand out? So this is a really fabulous example. We have the movie poster for it. Like creepy black background. The yellow of the raincoat really stands out, kind of representing like innocence, the child. And then like the red balloons, like both the red and the yellow really pop against the black. And then just like the word it. So much contrast, right? So I'm drawn like right in here. Like I see like the yellow, and then personally I look at the balloon, and then I look at like creepy font. So like notice the difference in like this versus like this, right? They want to catch our attention right here. So by using something bold, by using something different, you can emphasize what you really want to stand out. So I kind of see like these things, and then I notice like you'll float to the date, the clown that's kind of like subtly back here, right? So it's kind of like controlling what the viewer sees and how they see it. One of my favorite techniques. So then on the back here, you have space to draw an example of contrast using a bold color. So like if you're using docs, instead of drawing it, you can use like text, or you can like put images in there or whatever. I don't know why I didn't make a square there. I guess I wasn't thinking about it. But again, you're just, you're making something, it can be fake, whatever, but you're just showing me the example of contrast. Okay, so here's our design challenge for this. You're going to design either a flyer, a website, an invitation, or a business card. And you can make it something real if you want, or you can just totally make it up, kind of like what we did with the t-shirts, up to you. But you need to show me park. So I want to see proximity, I want to see alignment, I want to see repetition, I want to see contrast. Just like what we did with the t-shirts, you need to have that primary, secondary, and extra information. So if you don't have enough information for something, then you might not want to do that. For example, if you're trying to come up with a business card and all you have is like the logo and the name of the business, that's not going to be enough, okay? Because our whole thing here is we're using graphic layout. So you have to have text, you have to have multiple kinds of information, you have to have images, otherwise it's not going to be interesting. So for this, guys, you can use Adobe Spark if you want to, or you can use Google Drawings. So we're going to do a project a little bit later that's going to be more of like a cover design. So if you're thinking more in your head, like movie design or video game cover design or book design, we'll get to that. Okay, so don't stress out. This one's kind of like a step in that direction. So I have some student examples. For the business card, one is a business card. You can do a front and back if you want, or if you're able to fit it all on one side, that's your choice. So this person created a fictional business card. They created like a logo and put that in here. And then they have like kind of a smaller, like instead of just the logo, they wrote out the whole name, kind of like a sub logo over here. And then they have like their name and their role, their contact information, website, all of that good stuff. Oh, I love this design. It's really, and he designed the logo himself. It just looks really good together. The repetition of the blue, I know what I'm supposed to look at first. It's left aligned, all the things. So a contrast of the blue against the black, like it looks really well done. This person wanted to create a fake website, and they actually like made all of this stuff. So like these are all like the arrows, the search bar, even these little things. They made all of those little icons. So you can get really realistic with it if you want to. This was just a fictional website for her sister, who's an artist. So again, she has like gallery here, and then like the different places that would be like on the home page to click on. Good sense of unity here. Everything looks like it goes together. It's well organized, good proximity. So you can decide and think about, which of those things you'd be most interested in designing for. And then we'll start planning the project and then actually creating the project. And then our last project is going to be a cover design. So, last if you're a senior. Sorry, I keep saying that. If you're a senior, it'll be your last project. If you're a sophomore or junior, you've got one more after that. But the cover project's one of my favorites. So anyway, more to come on for planning sheets and whatnot for the graphic layout. But that is where we're headed.